A well-equipped party should be able to haul away a lot of stuff. Welcome to my channel. I focus on tabletop role-playing games, video games, and science fiction. One useful piece of equipment, not really sure if you should call it equipment, is a pack mule, because that can carry a whole bunch of stuff that is difficult or almost impossible for the party to carry. If you wanted to bring along a larger tent, that gets almost impossible to put on the back of a person because it's just so large and bulky. Whereas a pack mule, you can strap it on there, and if you have a cart, that's even better. But a pack mule has the advantage that you can actually bring the mule down into the dungeon. Now, mules are known to be fairly sure-footed, which has the advantage of getting around. Two pieces of equipment you probably should bring along is some blinders and a hobble. A hobble ties one of the four legs and the back legs together, or you can actually get them where they tie all four legs. That means that the mule can't wander off easily, which is probably useful when you want to take a rest, because the mule's going to stand there but can't go anywhere. And if something comes up and does attack the party, you don't want the mule wandering off or running away, because they are easily spooked. So if you have the hobble, you can do that. Another thing that's somewhat useful, which is a little bit more unusual, is some odoriferous substance, ideally something that's not too terribly offensive, that you can rub on the horse's nose, which means you stop its olfactory senses so that it won't be startled by the smell of some creature coming toward the party. That has both its advantages and disadvantages. If you're outside and you put the mules, and each party member has a bunch of them, you tie up your livestock, and if they get startled, you know something's probably stalking the party, unless they're coming from downwind, so that the mules can't smell them. And some predators know how to know about the wind and know how to work around that, whereas others just blindly come forward. But in a dungeon, you may want the mule not to be spooked by the startling of that. But the other option is to think about mules, because in theory, and there's some controversy about this, can mules and horses smell water? And actually the argument is that water doesn't really have a smell, but it's the other materials or the things that are in the water that they actually smell. So it allows you to have a pretty good idea if things are safe to drink, because they tend to survive naturally and avoid poisonous waters and things like that, or they have a much more sensitive sense of smell than humans do. But it allows you to put a whole bunch of stuff, and it's always been an interesting challenge when I game. Say a party finds a vast treasure hoard. Oh, let's say there's 50,000 gold pieces. Oh, we pack up the treasure and head out the dungeon. How many are in your party? Oh, you've got 6. And you've got, let's say, 50,000. That's 9,000, not quite, 8,000 some odd gold pieces a piece at 50 to, it just is way too massive for you to carry out. And you really can't carry that massive amount of a treasure out if it's in gold. So if you find smog or whatever, however you pronounce it, treasure hoard with tons and tons of gold, you can't pull it out, because it's only the amount that you can carry in your backpack, which means, you're getting rid of your bedrolls and everything else just so you can load up with it. The actual amount of treasure that you can actually carry out of a dungeon is actually fairly small. And I normally don't play encumbrance too much, but in that case it gets a little bit too far over the top for me. But if you have a mule, the mule, yes, they can carry more water, and they can carry more Molotov cocktails if you want to do that, or the wine or spirits or food and equipment. They can carry all the miscellaneous stuff that you want. but they're there. And I was reading some of the stuff about why they didn't like them in 4th edition and 3rd edition because it sort of overpowers. No, they don't really. They've always been around. They've been in going back to original Dungeons and Dragons. You could buy a mule. You could, and they've always been fairly cheap. And in 5th edition, there were 8 gold pieces or something like that for a mule. You need to spend a little bit more to get some blinders, and you need to spend a little bit more to get ideally a hobble, so that you don't need to worry about that. But they're a useful investment, because you can always, if you get hungry, and I mean if you really get hungry, you can eat the mule. That's one option. I've never tried horse meat or anything. I would have, if I was really hungry, I would know I wouldn't have any problems with that. I'm more of a, my phrase is omnivore with carnivore tendencies. But it's your characters can do that. It allows you to bring much more with you and to take much more out. Otherwise, you're sort of stuck with just what you can pack. And if you see pictures of, say, some of our troops carrying 80 pounds of equipment in Iraq and Afghanistan, you know how difficult that is to carry that much equipment. And if your character's going in the dungeon, you're going to be carrying a lot of equipment to be prepared for the various things that could happen to you. And the mules make it much easier to carry all that equipment there and back, and so you have everything in preparation for your adventures. I'd like to hear about your adventures with mules. Have you used them? Have you bought them? Now, arguably, as you get much higher level, they're not as useful, but for the start of an adventure, mules and carts turn out to be very useful things. So leave me some comments below. Thank you for watching my video. I look forward to learning what you think about this video. Let me know in the comments below. I appreciate all your comments. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, give me a thumbs down. I appreciate both forms of feedback. If you're new here and would like to subscribe, you can click on the icon on the left. If you're interested, there's more content on the right.